Welcome to another episode of Calling Old Hollywood. I'm your host.
What's my name?
Kat Lively. I'm happy. I think I've found my place. Welcome to another episode of Calling Old Hollywood. I'm your host, Kat Lively, and my guest this week is one of the most iconic sidekicks in television and pop culture history, actor and founder of Gentle Giants Rescue, Burt Ward. Hello.
Hello, citizen.
Yes. Holy haberdashery.
Oh, you're taking my lines.
We got this. How are you? Thanks for coming on the show.
I'm great, thank you, and it's great to be on your show. Was looking forward to it.
Thank you. Likewise, we're happy to have you. So it's no surprise, as everyone can see from the backgrounds, you played one of the most iconic roles in TV history, Robin.
Yep. It was 120 episodes, 3.5 years. When we came on January 12th, 1966, we got probably the highest rating in television history. It was a 55 share, meaning that of all the television sets on in North America, that would include the US, Canada, and Mexico, that 55% were watching Batman. And all the other local stations, regional and some national stations, were sharing the other 45%.
Just incredible. Absolutely. And there's no surprise why. It was amazing. It still is, but you're the best Robin. I love to start with early influences and things like that. Did you, I read that your father had like a traveling ice skating show that you also performed in.
Right. It was called Rhapsody on Ice. It was the predecessor to the Ice Capades. And this was it was a traveling show, and I was in the show. My father believed in an early work ethic, so he had me working as the world's youngest professional skater at age 2.
Wow. How did that work? How does that even, you can barely walk, right? Maybe a year out, but.
Yeah. That, well, what it was is, and it's funny because I actually remember a little bit from that time. What I remember was the giant arenas that were very dark with very bright lights that were on me, but I could hear people. You couldn't see them because, they're all with the lights off watching the show. But my father had some wonderful professional ice skaters, and they would bring me out as part of the show, and they would they would announce, the world's youngest professional ice skater at 2, and then they would I would skate around holding their hands, and everybody said, oh, well, that's good, they're holding his hands. Then they would let go, and I would skate by myself, and people just went nuts. They just couldn't believe a 2-year-old could skate forwards and backwards around this giant arena. So I remember that, and it was like it was exciting at the time, and then I grew up to be a person that was very athletic and very studious. I was voted the best athlete in my elementary school, and went on to high school, and I placed in the top 3% of the country in math and science on the college level. When I left to do Batman from the UCLA, the dean of the university commented that she said I should have stayed and been a nuclear physicist. But I think I preferred acting more. So I've had a really, a terrific time, and it's been wonderful. And doing Robin, let me tell you something. It was a really big deal to get that role. There was 1,100 young actors interviewed for one role. 1,100.
And you had no prior experience.
No experience, but I've been studying professionally for years. And it was one of those things where I wasn't going to try to do anything unless I knew I could do it, Right. So, but it was fantastic. And when they actually hired me, they said, the reason we selected you, Burt, was because in our minds, forgetting television, what if there really was a Batman and Robin? And if there was a real Robin, we think you personally would be it. So we don't want you to try to take on some character. We want you actually just to do 2 things: to be yourself and be enthusiastic. which
Yeah.
is not hard for me to do. So for 120 episodes, that's what I did. And I think what was really interesting is, as I found out, later, is that during that 122 episodes, not one occasion ever occurred with all these different directors where I was told to say a line one way or another. In other words,
and
Adam and I were left to do it just as we felt, and we had that very special chemistry.
Yes. So, and in fact, you added your own improv to a lot of things, with just like different little tactics, things on set, like instead of, opening the car, you were jumping over, like you had these little things that you did.
Exactly.
How did you come up with that?
Well, I just did what I thought was right.
Yeah.
I mean, in other words, so the very first time we filmed in the Bat Cave, there's that famous scene where we slide down the bat poles, we jump in the Batmobile, we have some dialogue, and then we race off.
Yeah.
I jumped over the door, and they weren't prepared for that. They actually had it where they figured I'd open the door, so the height was a certain height, and on the lens. But there was a scene in the first episode, really kind of typifies what I did, where we were about to go into a museum that Batman and Robin thought the Riddler was robbing this museum.
Right.
And of course, we want to go inconspicuously, so we would decide to climb up the side of the building. But when the Batmobile pulled up to this museum, it was the back of the Batmobile that was kind of closest to the museum door. And what I did is, instead of just opening the door to get out, I just jumped up on the door, walked back on the fin, very thin fin, by the way, and jumped off. And they remember the director saying, cut, and they're saying, Burt, you're out of the camera. You can't do that. I said, oh, I'm sorry. And they said, well, then he thought about it, and he said, that was so creative. All right, we're going to relight. We're going to put camera track down. We're going to put a dolly down. We're going to do this, and we're going to go with them, And they did it, and that was included. And it was those kinds of things that I did that really seemed to work, because I did what you would do if you were doing it, And both Adam and I had this amazing chemistry that we just got along. In fact, when we first met at the screen test, we screen tested together. And when we screen tested, I was introduced to him, and they handed me a sheet of paper, and just single sheet of paper, and it just had these paragraphs on it. And one paragraph had a heading that said Bruce, and then next one was Dick, not Bruce Wayne, not Dick Grayson, not Batman, just Bruce and Dick. And so I sat down next to Adam, and we started talking. And within 5 minutes, the two of us were laughing so hard. I'm telling you, I don't know what it was. We just had this amazing chemistry. And when we would work together, when he would say his lines, I would react to everything he said in the way that I would, based on the way he said it. So if he started talking very slowly, I would speed up and counteract. And, if you think about it, in history, the greatest comic duos had a lot of contrast. There was Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, Ed McMahon and Johnny Carson. I mean, all of the great people that had this chemistry, they were opposites. So Adam and I just did this tremendously well with each other. And it was so funny, because he envisioned himself kind of like a prime minister or something. He had these grand idea. Everything was so, he once said to me one time, Burt, there's the 3 Bs. I said, the 3 Bs? He says, yes, the most famous 3 Bs in history. I said, well, what are the 3 Bs? Bond, Beatles, and Batman, So, I mean, and it was Adam's natural, and it wasn't stiffness. It was just this kind of, kind of a Winston Churchill attitude. He was like, he once said to me, which is such a funny thing. He said, Burt, I was watching a movie last night, and I really understand now what it's like to play Batman. I said, really? Well, what did you watch? Well, I watched the 10 Commandments when Moses came down from the Sermon on the Mount with the 10 Commandments. I go, oh, Adam, oh my gosh,
otherworldly. Oh my goodness.
And that kind of that sort of typifies his and my relationship, but people really took to it. And we did some things Well, I must tell you that occur in today's movies. And I mean, a couple of things you might find interesting. One, I doubt there would be any superhero films if it hadn't been for the success of Batman and Robin. But secondly, we did something artistically that is now in just about every major movie, and we started it. And let me tell you what that is. It was like in the middle of the most dangerous situation that we would say something that had a funny line to it or a funny situation. In other words, it would be like making light, a moment of lightness in all this danger. So as an example, there was a scene in a warehouse where Batman and Robin and Adam and I, as the characters, are looking for the Joker. And all of a sudden, from up above or wherever they came in, 8 giant guys, like 6'5" or bigger, just huge guys, dropped down, 8 of them. And I remember I had a line that was typified of this type of style of acting, where I said, "Gosh, Batman, there's 8 of them against 2 of us. Odds in our favor." There's only 8. I mean, if there'd been maybe 16.
Right.
So, and if you look at today's movies, look at all, I mean, they're not just the superhero movies. Look at the bad boy movies. They're in a fight where they're, shooting and people are getting killed, and they have a line of, "Gee, if I ever get out of this, I'm not coming over to your house again." I mean, it's some kind of comic relief in the middle of danger. And that is something that Adam and I created.
I love that. I love it. You guys obviously had such a special friendship. What did you admire the most about him?
That he protected the character. In other words, when we would do anything that was either on camera or as in costume, never once did he deviate from the character. So that, I mean, we would go out and make these appearances, and you have literally, I mean, we had hold arena records weekends, like in Chicago, 177,000 people in McCormick Place. Detroit, Cobo Hall, 185,000 on a weekend came to see it. And when we were in costume, I mean, we would never, somebody might say, "Oh, well, take off your mask and let's see," Oh no. When we are in costume, we are in character.
Method.
And of course, in costume, then you have to answer as the character answers. You can't just, talk regular. So it was, and I also admired him for the fact that he had this natural sense of humor that, in my opinion, he was far funnier than any of these comedians that stand up and have to use swear words to try to get people to laugh. Adam was a natural, and he saw things from a very kind of different attitude. I'll never forget. We were working at Filmation, which did cartoons, and we did, after the series, we did a Batman, cartoon series that had this little character called Batmite. I mean, it was a real cute kind of thing. But I was talking to the owner of the studio, and he said, he says, "Let me tell you something about Adam." He says, "Adam is different than any person," he said, "that I've ever worked with." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, why is that?" He said, "He's the only person that I ever met, the only actor I ever met, that everything he says has a sexual connotation."
Yes.
Because he would say, and that was the whole thing of what we did on Batman. We used to put on our tights to put on the world. We said things that, well, okay, that's right, but then it could have a secondary or a third meaning. And that is what the college kids loved. The college kids and the teenagers back in that time, kids did not want to be watching television. I mean, little children did, and adults enjoyed the nostalgia of the comic book, but teenagers, that was the period of time. And this is the 60s, cruising the drive-in restaurants, on Friday and Saturday night, revving up their engines, and all that kind of stuff is what the youngsters like to do. So for them to stop doing that, to watch Batman twice a week, we had to have a really big pull on them. And it was that double meanings, that the suggestive things we said that had this connotation, and because that was a kind of a irreverent time. I mean, compared to today, no, but I mean, then it was like, well, nobody says yes to their parent like their parent is right, and I would have lines like, "Gosh, Batman, you're right." Oh, I mean, they thought that was the funniest thing they'd ever heard, because they're the ones that were so defiant that they didn't want to do what the parents said. I mean, we played it to the period. and it
Yeah.
really worked great. And we had a lot of fun doing it. And we actually, one more thing I want to mention. In those days, when you watch television, you were a person watching television was really like an audience in a movie where you're watching, you know, good guys or bad guys or doctors or patients or whatever you're watching. You're not really involved. You're just watching it. But
Right.
we tried to reach through that camera and grab those viewers and pull them into our story.
Kidding.
And it was that kind of, we used to say that we put on our tights to put on the world.
Yes.
And that's really what we did, and it just clicked. I mean, it was so gigantic. I mean, women had Batman hairdos. I mean, kids were putting bath towels around their neck held together with clothespins and jumping off their couches. I mean, this was worldwide, a huge phenomenon.
Batman was the 60s, you know, and it still is. I mean, it's absolutely timeless. Clearly, we're talking today in 2022. I mean, the effect.
I can't hear you.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me now? Woo. Uh-oh.
There we go.
Are we good? Okay.
We're
Okay.
good now.
We'll edit that. I was saying, yeah, no, Batman was the 60s and it's timeless. It continues today, which is why we're speaking in 2022. It just goes to show, I mean, literally Batman forever. It's just amazing, you know. I want to know what did you think? So how did you learn about, the character, like the audition, and what did you think initially about the character of Robin?
Well, here's what happened. I was selling real estate with working for my father, studying acting both at UCLA and privately. I had one of the top Hollywood coaches that, twice a week we'd go for class and stuff like that. But how I got into the chance to try out was that the house that I was they call it sitting on a house, where you wait for people to come on weekends. A famous producer came in, and that producer, I got talking to him, and I said, maybe it was pretty brave and brazen, but I said, would you be willing to watch a scene that I do? And he said, well, all right. He wasn't expecting, he's out looking to buy a house, not to watch scenes. But he watched the scene. He said, well, actually pretty good. He said, how about I send you to an agent? I said, oh, well, that'd be fantastic. So he sent me to an agent. And the agent, when I went to see him, first thing he said to me is, I can't get work for the actors I've got. Don't expect to work for a year. I would never take a new person on, but because of this producer, I'm stuck. I have to do it. So if you get a job, you might say one sentence. I don't know. Wow,
Sounds like Hollywood. Yep.
So I left kind of like, kind of a little bit dejected, but that's okay. And then it was 2 or 3 weeks later, I got a call from that same office. A secretary said, there's something going on over at 20th Century Fox. I said, oh, well, what is it? Well, we don't know, but we got an appointment. They're seeing a bunch of young guys. So tomorrow at 4:30, you go over and here's the address, and here's your drive on pass and all that kind of stuff. And I said, okay. Now, again, I knew nothing about it. So when I went there, I was sent to a bungalow. They had these casting little bungalows. And I went in, I was introduced to the casting director. He asked me like 2 or 3 questions. He didn't discuss anything. He didn't hand me any, there was nothing. It was just, hi, oh, what's your name? Yeah, what do you do? This, that.
No idea this was for Batman and Robin. Yeah.
Exactly. And then he said, would you like to meet the executive producer? And I remember now, I had never been on an interview. So I figured, well, hey, I guess everybody gets to meet the executive producer. Well, that's not the case, but I didn't know that. So I went to another bungalow, and they said, oh, Mr. Dozier will see you now. And again, because I hadn't been rejected, I hadn't had all this emotional trauma from being rejected, I just walked right in. I said, hello, sir. And I shook his hand. He's like, oh my gosh, this guy is really forward,
Confidence,
and he kind of looked at me for a minute. He says, well, you're kind of big for the part. I said, oh, but I promise you, sir, I won't grow anymore. It's like, how could you stop that, right? And he laughed. I mean, he laughed. And we got talking some more. He said, well, would you like to do a screen test? I said, sure. I mean, why not? Doesn't everybody? I mean, I didn't say that, but I thought that everybody got to do. Well, that's not true either. I didn't know that. So when I went to do the screen test, that's when they handed me that sheet of paper that just said Bruce and Dick. There was no discussion about what this was for. And so, and they wanted some stuff, athletic stuff, and I was a brown belt in karate, and I broke a board with my hand, and this was way back when the martial arts had just come to the United States, and so that was something very different. And after my lines as you know, the character of Dick, I said, well, thank you very much. And they said, wait, whoa, we're not done with you yet. I said, oh. He said, yeah, we want you to walk over to the other side of that sound stage, and there's a dressing trailer there, and we have 2 wardrobe men who are going to help you get dressed.
Yes.
I said, well, okay. I said, but honestly, I'm perfectly capable of dressing myself. They said, oh, no, you don't understand. No, you just go over there, you know, and these sound stages, they're like a city block. They're gigantic, right. They're tall and they're long, and they're cold. And so I walk over there, and sure enough, I go in the dressing room, and there's these guys are waiting for me, and they have, it looks like a giant couch without a back. I mean, just like 8 or 9 feet long with a big, you know, whatever it was. And all this stuff is on that. And I said, am I going to put some of this on? And they said, no, you're going to put all of it on. I said, what? They got me dressed in the most uncomfortable thing I had ever put on in my entire life. There was nothing that didn't itch or pinch or just horrible things. But you know, being a positive person, you know, you always try to make the best of the situation. So I remember as I was, because I couldn't see except straight ahead through the mask, I almost broke my neck coming out the door because I couldn't see the step below me. But as I was going out the door of the trailer to go to the set, I remember turning to the guys. I said, well, the good news here is that after another 15 or 20 minutes, I'll never have to put this costume on again.
Little did you know.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
And then I went to the set, and then I saw Adam in this costume. Again, where I grew up, they didn't have Batman comics. They had Superboy and Superman, which I always dreamed of being Superboy. And I got to tell you something. If you think hard enough and long enough and intense enough, I believe thoughts can become things. Absolutely. And, you know, so anyway, and and here I'm doing these lines, and all I can tell you was I was saying, I wonder if this is some kind of Shakespearean thing. I mean, I had no idea what this was about. Yeah. And it was like about 6 weeks go by afterwards, and every week I'm getting a phone call, and it's from somebody at the studio. Oh, this is so-and-so in wardrobe at 20th Century Fox. Can you tell me your shoe size? Oh, okay, 7.5. And then somebody else will call the next week. What's your hat size? Well, I don't know. I never wore a hat in my life. Oh, well, go get your head measured. Well, where do I go to get my head measured? I mean, you know, it's like knew none of this stuff. So after 6 weeks, I got a call from the agents that didn't want to take me in the first place. They said, you know, come on in. We're going to sign contracts with you. And I said, oh, wow, now I'm going to be formally represented. I mean, I could say I really signed. I really have an agent. So I went there, and I remember
no idea. Yeah.
No. And I sit down at this table, and I look at this contract, and it's like, what, 2 inches thick? I said, gee, that just for an agency, that seems an awful lot of legal stuff. And I look down, and it says 20th Century Fox on that. And I went to the door because they had me in a separate room, and I said, oh, excuse me, they brought me the wrong agreements. I'm supposed to have my agency contracts. And they went and checked. They said, no, that's for you to sign. I said, really? And the agent came in. He said, what's the problem here? I said, no, nothing. I thought I was signing my agency contracts, but this says something about 20th Century Fox. I said, you mean the studio didn't tell you got the role? I said, no. They said, well, you got the role. I said, oh my gosh. Well, 2 days later, I was at the studio, and they said, you mean your agents didn't tell you that you got the role? I said, no. So 4 of the 6 weeks I had the role, but I didn't know about it until at the very end.
It's just amazing. And thus became Batman, you know. It was just, I mean, 2 years, was it 120, you said?
120 episodes, 3.5 years of filming.
And it was just, you know, I'm sure you're glad you talked to the guy at the open house.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. His name was Saul David. He was a famous producer. He had produced all the Our Man Flint photo movies and Skullduggery, a bunch of very successful films, and a very nice man. And he bought the house. So my father ended up getting a commission.
So you got to tell him because of that you got the role of Robin, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. That was, well, and I'll tell you how funny things are. this first show that I was telling you about, where the director had said, okay, hey, we really like this jumping off the back of the, we'll do it. His name was Robert Butler, a very famous director, and he was brought in to direct the pilot. Now, with the pilot, that's where they spend the most money, because they want it to look the best for the network. After they sell it, that's a different matter. But that first one has got to be perfect,
top notch.
Well,
yes.
2 years ago, I finally got my star on Hollywood Boulevard. And afterwards, there is a kind of a traditional thing that the celebrity throws a kind of a little afterwards party, thanking people and saying hi. So this was my star was right in front of the Hollywood Museum. The Guinness Book of Records Museum, excuse me. And around the corner is the Hollywood Museum, where we threw this party. And as a surprise to me, that director, Robert Butler, came to the party, and it was like I couldn't believe I hadn't seen him in 50 years. 50 years. And he said to me, Burt, I have a story to tell you. I said, you do? He said, yes. When I was hired to come in on the show, the executive producer, William Dozier, said, we've got this new kid we just hired. We don't know if he's going to work out or not. Would you please go over and talk to him and see if you can work with him, And he said, sure. And I actually remember when the director came over and said, can I talk to you for a few minutes? I was like, oh, this is a big director asking to me. Well, of course.
Right.
He said that after talking to me, that he went back to William Dozier, and Dozier says, do you think you can work with him? He says, when you have somebody that talented, you stay the heck out of the way and let them do, because what he does naturally, I could never create. And to look, he's just totally natural, and you let him go, because what he does is perfect. And apparently, he was pretty good, because became a tremendous hit. Our show, I watched it, by the way. I was in a little apartment by myself on opening night, and I watched the show, and I couldn't believe how great. I mean, I thought, wow, this is really great, because when you're filming, let me tell you, it's not the glamorous thing you think.
No,
you sit there for 45 minutes waiting for them to light a scene, and then you work for 30 seconds, and then you wait another 45 minutes, and you work for another 30 or 40 seconds.
It's where craft services and a walk around the studio.
Exactly, and you're only doing your thing, And I didn't know anything about the music or the graphics with the pows and the zaps and the theme song, I mean, the energy and the color and the costumes, and wow.
So what did you think the first time, sitting there in your apartment watching this on television for the first time? What did you think?
I said, I think this is really good. I hope it's successful. Okay. And now we were a mid-season replacement for ABC in mid-season, and we replaced, I don't know, whatever show we replaced. So nobody knew as a mid-season replacement, they don't have high expectations, but our show became so gigantic that, as I found out later, between Batman and Bewitched, it took ABC, that was not a network at that time. It was a syndicated network. It was not a broadcast network like NBC and CBS, and it made it the #3 network in the United States, our two shows, because of the enormous popularity.
It's just amazing. So inquiring fans would like to know what it was like. They have a couple questions for you. The first one is, what was it like working with Cesar Romero?
Working with Cesar Romero is like working with the consummate professional. I mean, everything was exactly on time, knew his lines, never made a mistake. It was almost like it wasn't real. Because people make mistakes. He didn't make any mistakes. And everything he did, and if they wanted him to do that famous Joker laugh again, he did it perfect every single time. And a very nice man, very dignified man. When you're in his presence, you're kind of like, wow, this is classic Hollywood. This is what you imagine, the Greta Garbos and all the Clark Gables and all the biggest stars to be like, he was the real thing.
I believe that. The next question they have was working with Yvonne Craig.
Yvonne Craig was one of the sweetest people I ever worked with. Bright, sharp, funny, sweet, nice lady that not only did we work together great on Batman, but that afterwards she ended up coming out to my house and visiting with my wife and I, and she loved dogs, and of course we have more dogs than you can imagine. So she was like having a wonderful time, just the sweetest lady and fun. And we did some appearances together after the show, you know, signing autographs, and she and I and Adam would headline these big weekends. It could be a memorabilia show, a custom car show. It could be any gigantic trade show that they would spend a lot of money to bring us in, to just literally bring in hundreds of thousands of people.
It's incredible. Oh man, I'm just wonderful though. And the third question the fans want to ask is about the convention circuit. Will you be coming back to the film TV conventions?
Well, let me tell you, I did a lot of personal appearances, more than 7,000 personal appearances, everyone in a different city now.
Yes.
And signing more than 8.5 million autographs. Okay. For 25 years. Now, this is over a 50-year period, but for 25 years, I was on the road doing 300 cities a year for 25 years. That means out of 365 days, I went to 300 cities. Now, there would be some I would go to 3 cities in one day. Like I would fly into a town and I would be working maybe at a local car dealership signing autographs for 2 hours. And then the people from a grocery store 30 miles away would pick me up and drive me to their city. And I would do it at a grocery store. And then somebody from
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And then a third one would pick me up when that one do that one, and then I'd spend the night and go to the next city. This was all put together for me, and so I would go out and I would work every single day for a minimum of 60 days, come back for a week, and go out for another 2 months at a time.
Wow.
So it was a lot of living out of a suitcase for 25 years. Okay, so now I have found a different way to be able to go to the appearances. We do it virtually, where we, because of technology, yes, well, it kind of like Zoom, but what's different is I can actually sign autographs, where when I sign the autograph, it prints out with a Sharpie pen, the same I would use if I was in person, on a photograph, where it has the wet ink with their name on it, with my actual signature electronically transferred. Okay. And then on top of that, what makes it even better is that people that would come out and they'd stand for hours to get an autograph and their picture and stuff, and they leave. But of course, and they get to shake your hand. So, you know, doing it this way, you can't shake their hand. But what you could do that makes up for it is that when they're doing, we're talking, it's video recording. So not only do they leave with a photograph, but they leave with a video recording that they can put on the internet, they can show to their family and friends, you know, fully proving that, you know, that they met the actor, you know, and showing that they got the autograph and the questions they asked and the answers they got. I mean, that's really long-term, a much more special, you know, than just shaking a hand, you know what I mean? Especially through a glove.
Absolutely. Something I want to touch on real quick is I want to talk about the charity that you and your wife started. So Gentle Giants, and you guys have some big things coming up with that. How did you get involved with what was the catalyst? Obviously,
well, the catalyst was that my wife and I had a child, and we moved away from being at the beach. We had a beautiful place overlooking the water, 4 stories high, with balconies 50 feet in the air, and you've got a little child running around on balconies. You know, it's like nerve-wracking, right? You don't want to have that. So we thought, well, let's get into a single level residence, you know, and we don't have to worry every minute that, hey, where's our daughter, you know? So we moved out here about an hour east of Los Angeles, beautiful 5-acre estate. We have just everything we could possibly want. And we thought we would get her a big dog. And I liked Great Danes, and my wife grew up with Irish Wolfhounds, and we started looking, and we heard about a Great Dane that needed to be rescued, meaning that whoever had it couldn't keep it for whatever reason and was about to turn it into a shelter. And of course, if they go to the shelter, that's it. They don't come out. I mean, shelters do try to adopt, but after 5 days, they put them to sleep, most of the shelters. So anyway, we rescued this Great Dane, and then we heard about another one. And we said, well, you know, maybe we could have the most important, that we found a way to help dogs live twice as long, and they're living to 27 years, and cats are living to 32 years.
So how is this possible? This is incredible.
Well, yeah, first of all, as I was saying, my wife and I rescue dogs. Well, we first started with Great Danes, and from Great Danes, people would come to us and they'd say, well, here's my Great Dane. I have to give it up. I lost my house or something bad happened. And they say, well, here's my German Shepherd. I guess I'll take the Shepherd to the shelter and they'll put him to sleep. And my wife and I would look at each other and say, no. Even though we rescue Great Danes, you leave your Shepherd here. So over the period of time, and now after 28 years, 15,500 dogs rescued, everyone would have been put to death. My wife has redefined the term Great Dane. If it has 4 legs and a tail, it must be a Great Dane. So we have 45 different breeds of dogs, ranging from tiny 2-pound dogs that are 1/3 the size of a Chihuahua called Chinese Crested, all the way up to our giant Great Danes and English Mastiffs and Irish Wolfhounds and Saint Bernards and many other breeds. Well, these giant breeds have the shortest lifespan traditionally.
Right.
And when we would lose one, I mean, some of these breeds, I got to tell you, like Irish Wolfhounds and English Mastiffs, their traditional lifespan is only 6 to 8 years. And with these big, beautiful, gentle giants, I mean, that's why we call them gentle giants and call ourselves gentle giants, because they're bigger they are, the more gentle they are. And so it's amazing. But we couldn't stand to see one die. So we vowed that if we could find a way, we would help them live longer lives. And the first thing we discovered after feeding, and we feed, just to give you an idea, 600 pounds of our Gentle Giants dog food here every single day, 600 pounds a day.
You've got to have like a staff. You've got people. I mean, there's no way just the two of you can be doing this.
Well, yeah. Well, just think of that's 20 bags, 30 pound bags a day. Just think what it takes to lift, carry, pour, and clean up from 20 bags a day. So, but the thing is that we developed this feeding and care program first, of the way we feed and care for dogs, which is differently than other people do. And through the tremendous amount of experience, I mean, just imagine if for 28 years of your life, you live with never less than 50 dogs in your house, 24/7, for 28 years. I mean, you're the ultimate hands-on you could ever have. So we learned all these techniques that we now, on our website, gentlegiantsdogfood.com, and on our cat food site, which is gentlegiantscatfood.com, that we have a feeding and care program. We call it our special feeding and care program, how to feed and care for dogs properly. And this is dramatic. This can add 5 to 8 years to a dog's life, just by the way you feed and care for them. But then we said, is there anything else we could do? What if we could, maybe we could create a better food for them, more nutritious, to help them live longer?
Yeah.
And we went out and we spent like $4 million of our own money to create the finest food that we could create for dogs. And it works. And we have dogs living consistently twice their normal lifespan, but up to 27.5 years. And on our cat food, 2 years ago, we lost 2 of our cats. One was 31 years old and the other was 32 years old, which is unheard of for cats.
I have to get some because I've got hold on 1 second. Let's introduce you. We've got this little guy. We've got to get some of your cat food.
Oh, absolutely.
My little bat.
And there's reasons why our food is so effective. 2 big reasons. Particularly in the case of dog food, if you had a dog, I tell people, you want to know the difference between our food and what you're feeding so that you can understand why a dog can live twice as long in our food. I said, go pick up 3 or 4 kibbles of your dog's food. Rub those kibbles in your fingers, put the kibbles down, rub your fingers together. You're going to feel a slightly greasy feeling. Right. Every dog food has it except us. That is a coating of animal fat that was sprayed onto the food after the food was made, by the way, filled with extra fat on the inside as well, a coating of animal fat to get animals to eat more food, to make you buy more pet food. I mean, unconscionable. But the problem is, and people say, well, how could just a little coating of animal fat be so dramatic to shorten the life of my dog. I said, well, think of it this way. Would you take a can of bacon grease and pour it down your garbage disposal at home? Would you do that? Well, of course not. And I said, why wouldn't you do it? Well, because it would harden and clog up, And I said, that's right. Unlike water that evaporates, animal fat coagulates. And when it hardens, it's like cement.
Right.
And if you took a can of bacon grease, you poured it down your garbage disposal, you let it sit there for 5 or 6 hours, you would be calling a plumber to come and replace the pipes in your sink. So what is my point? The point is, when you realize that animal fat will ruin metal pipes, what do you think is happening to the arteries and intestines of your favorite pet when every single meal, every single day, every single kibble is encapsulated in animal fat?
Right.
People go, oh my gosh.
Goes on and on. Yeah. No,
That's one big, there's another big reason, really big reason too. On our website, gentlegiantsdogfood.com, we talk about the fact that our food is non-GMO. All of our ingredients, non-GMO, non-genetically modified. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, let me tell you why. Because now 98% of our food source in the United States, our food supply, has been genetically modified. Right. Only 2% hasn't. So as an example, well, and say, well, why again is this such a big deal? Well, think of it this way. When a farmer grows a plant, say like rice, and they're growing the rice, pests will attack the plant. And when they spray a pesticide on it, hey, the plant could easily die from the pesticide. Mm-hmm. So by combining that plant's DNA with no less than the stuff that you hear about on television, Roundup, that you hear people are suing people because they're coming down with cancer using Roundup. But when it's mixed with Roundup, what happens is the DNA changes. So when the pesticide is sprayed on the plant, it doesn't kill the plant. The plant goes ahead and grows the rice or whatever. Well, that rice or whatever it is that they're growing, nevertheless, has absorbed the pesticide. Mm-hmm. And animals' immune systems are much more frail than humans. We're designed much better than animals, okay? Well, we are an animal, but I mean, much better than dogs and cats. So the bottom line is, and on our website, we have a video, an 8-minute video that we didn't produce. We got from a site that does research on genetically modified human foods and animal foods and how they affect animals. But we found this great 8-minute video in which all of the people interviewed are veterinarians. Now, these are all prominent veterinarians, and they're interviewed about the lifespan, what they're finding with their patients. And everyone says just about the same thing, which is 10, 15, 20 years ago, they would see one patient, dog or cat, a month that had cancer. Mm-hmm. Now, every single day, 1 out of every 2 patients they see has cancer. And they attribute that to the genetically modified organisms in the food source. Just about every dog food is GMO. I mean, unless it says in big letters, non-GMO, because it's twice the price to get the food. We had to research in order to, because if you look on what it's in ingredients in dog food, it's a lot of stuff. Every single ingredient is non-GMO. It took us 1.5 years just to find suppliers that could certify in writing that their ingredients were non-GMO. And all of our food is non-GMO. And as a result, we don't have illness here. We have 50 dogs at all times. Our dogs are so healthy here that the only time they go to a veterinarian is every 3 years for a $10 rabies update. That's all. So, and all these, and I think in the 28 years that we've been rescuing, we've had less than a dozen dogs have cancer. Less than a dozen.
So you went from saving citizens on TV to saving canines and cats.
Exactly. In fact, Warner Brothers likes it where I say I was the Caped Crusader and now I'm the Canine Crusader.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just, it's incredible. I mean, you guys you're literally saving, not just saving the lives of animals, but doubling and in some cases tripling their lifespan.
Exactly. And here's the thing is our food, which we never intended to sell it. You have to understand, we couldn't stand to see our dogs dying. So yeah. But what happened was the people would come and adopt, and they would adopt the dog and they say, okay, well, you know, what about the food? So, oh, well, you go feed whatever you want. Oh, no. I see an 18-year-old Great Dane over there. That's twice the normal. I want to feed what you're feeding. Oh, well, we just made it for ourselves. Well, I'm not going to adopt this dog if I can't have that food. So we said, we got to go comply with labeling laws. And we went through this whole thing, and we're qualified in every state to sell our food, proper labeling, all that kind of stuff. So now our food is available all across America. We're in Target stores. We're online with Petco.com, PetSmart.com, TractorSupply.com, Target.com. We have all of these, and our own website, GentleGiantsDogFood.com, so people could get our food. And you just wouldn't believe the response we've gotten. Most people will write to us about a month after they've transitioned their dog to our food, and they'll write things like, I can't believe it. I'm not sure I have the same dog. After a month, this dog, well, for example, one lady said, my loving dog used to jump up on my bed, my little dog, and now for the last 3 years, she hasn't been able to jump on the bed. And I've been feeding your food for 5 weeks, and she's jumping up on the bed again. Thank you for giving me my puppy back. And this is real. And we, on our website, on our homepage, a man wrote to me and said, you don't know me, but I've been feeding your food to my dog for the last 15 years. He never had a sick day in his life for 15 years. He just died, my German Shepherd. He was 23 years old.
Wow.
23 years old German Shepherd.
Yeah.
That's almost 3 times. They also live at anywhere from 10, 11 years, maybe 12 years, the average Shepherd. So this is really working. And you know something? Because we consider this our charity, my wife and I don't take any salary. We don't take any salary. And I got to tell you something, it's a lot of work getting into all these stores and online. And our phone number is right on the back of every bag. And people call us, and we get about 1,100 people a week that contact us either through Facebook Messenger or email or phone call or text message. And they have questions. We answer all the questions. We give people free help, and people are thrilled. I mean, they are thrilled because they love their dogs and cats. You know, they love them.
You guys are doing an incredible service, an incredible thing for animals. Amazing, just amazing. I mean, you know that, but that's just, I mean, seriously.
Well, you know, I tell you, long term, my wife and I look forward to doing even greater things for mankind. You know, and in fact, most of our life now, I would say 99% of what we do is for charity. Yeah. And we are in a wonderful position that we can now develop our own television shows, our own movies, without having to go get financing from anybody. And we're in a position, and we've now built a beautiful animation studio behind our home with recording room and everything, the best computers, the best technology. And we have another building on our property that we're building a full sound stage for doing our movies and stuff. And the things that we want to do are positive things, not preachy things, just positive things. We want everybody to have the best chance in life, to have the best life. And that's our goal. You know, we want to leave this planet better off than we found it. And we love this, and we take no money from any of this. We're very fortunate. We're totally self-sufficient, but we are having the best time in our life trying to create the best things that people haven't seen before, the best technology that just literally coming out day by day as we're using it when it's first coming out. So we're having a great time, and we know that we can do things for mankind that like we've been doing for animals, and we really want to do that.
On behalf of everyone that can't say it directly to you, thank you for everything that you and your wife are doing together. I mean, the legacy of Robin transcends so far into the present day, where you're still helping people in various different ways. And that is, you know, even especially in the times right now, so needed, you know, with just
It's very scary out there, and you know, to do things in a positive way. And also we're doing programming for children as well that will help impart values like honesty and integrity and sharing and caring, because when kids grow up with the right kind of things in their mind and positive things, and really being gentle and kind to other animals and people. I mean, we can make this a better world.
Yes, I believe that. Abs, you're preaching to the choir. I'm on the same page. Yes, I mean, that's so important. It's just, that's what I'm doing is trying to help other people. You just, you be a kind person, you be a good person.
Yeah.
The world doesn't need more. They need more peace, more love. And I sound very, very 60s right now, but
But something, that was a period when you had, I mean, it really was, that was the flowered children and the famous concerts and when it was a simpler world, and we can never go back to that, but we can kind of duplicate some of the great things that they had in a modern way that fits in with the way our society is growing. But wouldn't it be great that we could give every child a chance to grow up and not have to go on the wrong track? I mean, if you can give them an opportunity to live and do great things, I think most people would want that.
Absolutely. And that's why I think, it's most people, I tend to veer on the side of optimism, where I think most people are good. Most people want good. I refuse to kind of buy into a lot of things that are happening because, it's like nobody wants pain. Nobody wants suffering. Nobody wants, and so, it's just even at the littlest thing every day, if you can do something nice for someone or just say something kind or, I mean, that's just, it's that simple.
Exactly. Well, there are 3 essentials to happiness. Would you like to know what they are?
Yeah.
3 essentials to happiness. Okay. First one, someone to love. Second, something to do. And third, something to look forward to. If you have those 3 things, you will be happy.
I believe that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just beautiful. I mean, life is this, it's just this incredible experience. And I think so. It's like, those are the keys.
Well, I also tell people the first 100 years are the hardest. After that is pretty smooth sailing.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Exactly. What crazy times right now, that, it's just amazing what you and your wife are doing and what you're contributing still to the Robin legacy, everything else. I mean, that's amazing. Question. So if you could, I guess we've kind of said it a little bit, but if you could say something to the viewers and listeners right now, either words of encouragement or advice, what would you say to them?
I would say that if you want happiness, which to me, really, I think to be happy is probably the greatest thing in the world. I mean, of course, you got to be healthy too, but to be healthy and happy, those would be the 2 greatest things. That you've got to try to find it and look for it and pursue it. It just doesn't come by itself. Right. Anything worthwhile is worth working for. Absolutely. And the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And if every single day you could do one little thing that just puts you a little bit farther along that path, I think that, and you don't have to have great expectations, but you can do things and do them from your heart. And I find that when you're kind to other people, good things you do to others come back to you, good or bad. And when you show kindness, it somehow can come back at the time you need it the most, or help, and I think for all the people out there that they should all try to live their dream. We all can pursue things. Some maybe more successfully than others, but the person that finds something in life that they want to do and they're happy doing, and they have someone to share their life with. I mean, you could be pretty happy doing that, just to whatever extent it is. But we've got to give everybody the best chance for the best life, and we've got to try to avoid all the negative and the corruption and and getting people that they're taken advantage of and stuff like that. We somehow, I have to believe that we can have a better government without any political stuff, just where it really protects the people and encourages the people and tries to help everybody. Everybody should have a chance to live their dream.
So when are you running for president?
Well, unfortunately, I don't. You know something. I don't think I'd be a very good president because I think I would be too kind to everybody, and I wouldn't want to pick one side or another. I would try to find some way to bring everybody together like a family. That we can all love each other. We can have different thoughts. We can have different opinions. We can like different foods. But that doesn't mean that you can't be kind and you can't be, you can't live and treat other people with respect. And when you do that, they treat you with respect, and everybody comes out a winner. It's funny. I will tell you this, because we are so for animals, right? Dogs and cats. And by the way, we've not just rescued dogs and cats. We've rescued probably 500 cats in the last 28 years. We've rescued horses and pigs and goats and sheep. I mean, if you save lives, then you save lives. Mm-hmm. And but I found that 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 no matter what your political affiliation is, if you love doesn't matter what you are, if you love your animal, those people, most of them, they love us because they know we're trying to help their animal, and we're trying to help them because, and people say to me, the only thing they ever complaint I would get would be, all you do is for animals. Why don't you do something for human beings? Okay. And here's what I say to them. I say, well, if I help you keep your dog or cat an extra 5 or 10 years longer, don't you think I've done something for you? Oh, well, when you put it that way, yeah, of course. But we are going to try to do something for humans, but through our programming and try to use technology, wonderful new stuff that people haven't seen. There's amazing technology and we're in the forefront of experimenting with it, that can entertain and educate and enrich people's lives in such a positive way. And that's what Tracy and I want to do.
It's incredible. I'm really excited to see what you guys continue to do and how this continues to evolve. It's amazing.
Well, hopefully we'll have something in the next year, but it takes a while, to do things, and the things that we want to do aren't being done now. I mean, we're not just coming out with something that's similar other people are doing. We're using technology that people don't see every day and a lot of people don't even know about. But when they experience it and they see it, it's all for the good to make their lives better. I think it's could be very popular.
Incredible. Well, this has been just such a wonderful interview and episode, and we're just so grateful. I've 3 closing questions. That's
sure.
I guess we already asked a message to the world kind of thing, but advice to aspiring actors, aspiring philanthropists, what would you say to them?
I would say life is difficult. We all have, nobody gets a free pass. You've got to be patient and you've got to be persistent. Mm-hmm. Too many people give up. I mean, and look, you can look at these odds of, what is it, the odds of becoming a successful actor? Well, they're not real big numbers, okay? They're pretty small numbers. But if you persist and you do everything you can and you study and you train for whatever you want to do in life, you study, perfect yourself to the best of your abilities, you someday will get that chance, but you got to be ready for it. And if you're not ready for it, you can lose it. I would say preparation, and when you do that, and persistence, don't give up. Yes, there's a lot of bad things. And some days, you have to kind of like turn around and say, well, I didn't win today. I lost today, but I'm going to come back tomorrow or the next day. And I'm going to learn from what I did. And somehow I'm going to find a different way to succeed. And that is what it takes to do it, because it just, and again, that doesn't mean you're going to be a big star if you want to be an actor, but it could mean that you star in local plays, or that you do things, or you do perform for audiences, and that they clap and you feel fulfilled. I mean, everybody has a different thing in terms of what fulfillment can be, but it's important. It's important emotionally to feel like you've done something good and that you're helping people. And believe it or not, the people that are the happiest are the people that help others, not where it's all for themselves.
Yes.
My wife and I are fortunate that we can live very comfortably as it is. we don't have to keep going out and trying to make more money. That's not the goal. I mean, if you have enough to live on and you can be happy and you can enjoy your family and your friends and your life, that is the greatest thing. Not to just be chasing, dollar bills, because you can't take it with you. And some of the people that are the richest people on our planet are also the unhappiest people on our planet too. So it's what you do with your life. We're all here. Kat, we're here for such a short period of time. It is so short that every day, in fact, I say sometimes, live each day as though it were your last, and someday you'll be right.
Very James Dean of you, dream as if you'll live forever, live as if you'll die today.
Well, I say, don't take life seriously. You don't get out of it alive anyhow, right? And so the best things in life are free, so here I am, good for nothing. But, but just try to do the best you can, and something, you'll be happy. When you can go out and there's so many people that can look at something and say, well, that glass is half empty. But the other person can say, well, that glass is half full.
Exactly. It's all perspective. No, you're completely right, and that's the thing too. I wish, I think that's the thing I run into a lot with my, with entertainment, with work that I do. It's so many people, they have this illusion that, if only they were famous, or if only they had this much money or this or that, that would mean happiness. And it doesn't, happiness comes from within, and it's the decisions that we make that create that. And it doesn't have to do with money. It doesn't have to do with fame. It doesn't have to do with, showbiz at all. It just has to do with doing things that make you happy from the heart.
That's right. And finding peace in yourself. If you can be at peace with yourself, and and we all know that we all have these terrible trials and tribulations. Nobody gets a free ride, believe me, nobody. But at the same time, if you can say, okay, here's the things I'm up against, I'm going to do the very best I can every day. I'm going to do the best I can. And that's all you can do. And you can, I found that even when I was doing the series, and I would have all these people that would come up to get autographs and stuff, and I could sit there and talk to anybody on any subject, no matter what it was. Didn't have to be about show business. In other words, everybody has a story to tell. And everybody craves understanding and appreciation. And if you just approach people on a let me help you and you help me, and let's just have a nice time, and for whatever time we're speaking or talking, let's just come away with something that's wonderful from this, and it's nurturing, you know what I mean? There's a famous saying. It says, for in the dew of little things the heart finds its moment and is refreshed.
Yes.
And you think about and going out in nature and just and looking at the wonders of trees and plants and animals and
being grounded. Just the appreciation for the smallest things. Sometimes we as humans tend to take for granted. We get so used to certain lifestyles or certain things, or Hollywood, or this or that. It's like we get used to things, but we forget, wait a second, it's crazy that I'm alive right now. It's crazy that I even exist. Like, this is amazing,
It is.
It's that kind of, definitely, appreciation, and just kind of just a gratitude goes so far,
Exactly. Right. So I encourage people to pursue their dreams, do it the best they can, and just keep at it. And eventually you do get a chance, but you got to be ready for it. And that that would be the worst possible thing, to get the chance and then not have studied or practiced or got yourself to a point that you felt that you could perform. Because if somebody turns to you and says, okay, well, hey, I'm going to give you a chance to do this, you got to be able to do it and do it well.
Exactly. So 2 questions. We've got 10 minutes left. This is a curveball I love to ask every guest on the show. If you could be any character from The Wizard of Oz, who would you be and why?
Oh, from The Wizard of Oz. I guess Dorothy,
Yeah.
because look at the wonders that she experienced and the enrichment, and even though the trials and tribulations, look what she saw, and look how others came to help her. And it's just, it is the living life that is so precious. Life is the most precious commodity in the world.
It's a great answer. Great answer. And the final question is, I know you mentioned the website, but where can viewers and listeners find you online?
Okay, they could go to, well, our pet food website, gentlegiantsdogfood.com, gentlegiantscatfood.com, for those that have pets like that. We've just formed our new corporation that's going to be doing all our entertainment programming, and it's called Superheroes to the Rescue Incorporated. But you might be kind of fitting, right? And we don't have a website yet, but we will. So, and for those that love their animals, that really want to have them for an extra 5 or 10 years longer,
Yes, please.
this is the real thing. Please go to Target, or go online to any of the Petco, PetSmart, Tractor Supply, Target, all of the retailers online. They have our food, our own websites. And give your animal a chance to live an extra 5 or 10 years longer. And it's not just living longer, it's the quality of life. When you have health, we have no illness here. Just think, if you could have an animal with you an extra 8 or 10 years longer and have no illness, I mean, every day could be a day that you could enjoy with your dog or cat. And it's going to enrich your life too. Because all of us, we see our animal in pain and it hurts us, I mean, we're have a symbiotic relationship with the things, the people and the creatures that we love. So if you can keep them healthy, it mentally can keep you healthy.
Agreed. I've got 2 rescue cats, and I mean, they're my world. So I mean, if anyone listening, watching, go purchase this, because that's, I mean, it's a gift. It is. I mean, these little guys, like, they can't speak. We have to be their voices, they can't buy their own food. We have to think about it. That's the conscious decision you make when you bring an animal into your home and your life. They are like children in that way, where we are responsible for their lives.
And be sure you give your animals fresh water every day.
Yes.
If you can, purified water.
Mm-hmm.
You want all the best for them. Give, and the more love you give, the more you get back. And that's the way it works. And we get an awful lot of love. I've got 50 in my house right now that would love to be slobbering all over me here.
I love it. Is it the Beatles that said, in the end, the love you make, or the love you take, is equal to the love you make?
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Fantastic.
I agree.
Burt, thank you so much for coming on Calling Old Hollywood. Thanks for this time, lending knowledge, talking about all of the wonderful work that you and your wife are doing together. Can't wait to see more of that. And
well, thank you. As we like to say on Batman, at the end, to the Batmobile.
To the Batmobile, Burt. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. You as well. Bye.
Right. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.